Hello, LOS here with another video. Today I will be exploring the NBA. I will cover free agency, draft day, predictions, and much more about every team in the Western Conference. If you would like the Eastern Conference, please make sure to like and subscribe. As you can see, here are the Western Conference standings last season. 1, you got the Warriors, 2, Nuggets, 3, Blazers, 4, Rockets, 5, Jazz, 6, Thunder, 7, Spurs, and 8, Clippers. The most interesting matchups in this Western Conference playoffs was definitely Damian Lillard hitting that shot on the Thunder, or the Clippers taking the Warriors to 6 games. All very interesting storylines that we'll be covering. A lot of change-ups, especially in the Western Conference. The West is very strong this year, as the past couple of years, and it should be very interesting to see what happens. So, we're first going to start with the Sacramento Kings and De'Aaron Fox. Now, the key to this team is a very young core. They might not be good next year, maybe not be that good 2 years from now, but as they keep progressing, Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield, and De'Aaron Fox will be great players in the NBA. And if they keep those guys together, that's a really great team. They drafted Kyle Guy. I gave their draft grade a B-. They drafted Justin James and Kyle Guy, both guards that can come off the bench and help them. I don't know if Justin James will make the team, but I think that he'll probably play in the G League, but Kyle Guy I think definitely will. So I gave the Kings a B- grade on their draft, and I gave their free agency grade a C because they did lose Willie Cauley-Stein in free agency. They did get back Dwayne Dedmon, who can shoot and is more of a shooter, but they're going to lose some rebounds. Marvin Bagley will definitely need to step up in that area. And just a prediction, I think that the Kings will not make the playoffs this year. I think they'll be right where they were last year, right outside the playoffs, 9 or 10. But De'Aaron Fox is going to be a very great guard. I think he's going to establish himself as a top 8, top 6 point guard in the league. He's just so dynamic. He's having a great off-season. He's been with USA Basketball, and he's just been getting great things. Next, we got the Denver Nuggets, a very solid team led by Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Now, if the Nuggets want to get out of the Western Conference Finals, then they need Jamal Murray to put up some huge numbers. Now, he's a great player, but they need him even more than they have before. They drafted all right. They drafted very well, in my opinion. They snatched up Bol pretty late, and that was surprising. And if Bol can live up to the hype, then that is a very great pick. I gave their draft grade a B, because they filled out a good spot. And if the Nuggets get Michael Porter Jr. and Bol going, along with what they already have, that's one of the scariest teams in the league, and that's a very hard team to beat. In free agency, I gave them a B-. They got rid of Trey Lyles, and they got rid of Isaiah Thomas, and they did sign back Paul Millsap, and that was actually a huge contract, a bigger contract, not a huge contract, a big contract that I don't know if they needed to get, but he's still a great player. Another person I got was Jeremiah Grant, I think. He'll be a great fit in Denver. And so my prediction for them, I think they're going to get to the same spot. I don't think they can get by teams like the Trailblazers and the Clippers, the Lakers. I don't think they can get by those teams, but they're getting there. They have a very bright future. So I think they'll be a 3, 4, 5 seed around there. Next we have the Suns. Now the Suns are obviously not that good, but they do have some. I don't know. It's hard to explain with them because they just aren't very smart. They could have traded Josh Jackson for Kyrie Irving, and they didn't pull the trigger on that. And then they just traded Josh Jackson for Kyle Korver, who they're gonna cut. It's just like they're not very smart right now. Signing Ricky Rubio was a terrible trade, but we'll get to that. So we're gonna start off with a C- for their draft grade. They drafted Cameron Johnson, who was a 5-year senior at North Carolina, and they drafted Ty Jerome. I don't know why they went with Cameron Johnson. I mean, he was a great player, but it was way too early. They could have got him at what they were at, which was 20-something. They could have got him there. I don't know why they did that. The only good thing that happened in the draft was that they were able to get Dario Saric for T.J. Warren. And I don't think T.J. Warren really fit on that team, and he was a huge contract. I think Dario will be better fit. That's the only thing that they did good. Obviously, free agency was terrible. Rubio was $51 million a year. That's so much money. I mean, why is he getting that money? He's not gonna. I didn't think that was very smart. They maybe a 1-year contract, but 3 years. I don't think that's gonna work. They did pick up Frank Kaminsky, but my overall prediction for this team is not good unless DeAndre Ayton steps up big time and Devin Booker's always going to be the rock of that team. Then maybe there's just no way they're making the playoffs unless they turn something around and Devin Booker drops 30 a game, which he could, but it's just not going to happen. They don't have enough in them at all. Next, we're going to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, they're in a rebuild mode, but it's a pretty scary looking rebuild. Jaren Jackson, great player. Ja Morant, that kid is a stud. Triple-double in the first round of the NCAA tournament, getting his team past Marquette and Marcus Howard. That was crazy. And he carried his team against Florida State. I think he had a triple-double in that game. And that's too bad that they lost. But he'll be the key of that. Also, we'll get to the draft really quick. The key point of this team is their youth. And they are Summer League champs. They have a solid lineup. I don't think they'll make the play. Oh, yeah, we'll get to that too. Just really young, solid lineup. I gave their draft an A because they drafted Ja Morant and Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark being the Summer League MVP. Obviously, that's a huge pick where they got him, which was about 21, I think it was, in the first round. That was a great pick. They got a very solid start to that rebuild, and I think they'll be a very good team coming up if Ja Morant can live up to his potential. Free agency was a B, but it was probably a higher B. They dumped Chandler Parsons' huge contract. They got Iguodala. They got Dwight Howard, and they got Josh Jackson. So, I mean, that's not a bad – there's some pretty good pieces that could help them out. I don't know what they're going to do with Iguodala, but that's a pretty good trade piece if you're trying to trade him to a contender. I think a prediction for them wouldn't be the playoffs yet. Maybe an 8 seed if John Morant is a Rookie of the Year, has a Rookie of the Year. But I really don't think that they'll make the playoffs this year, but it's going to be soon. It's going to be soon for them. Next, we have the Lucky Duck Pelicans winning the Zion sweepstakes. I'm a big fan of Zion. I really think that he is a great player. And I'm a big fan of Duke, and so I saw him play, and I just saw him. He just wants to win so bad, and so that's a great player. And what they did with the Anthony Davis situation was perfect. They weren't going to be able to keep him. He destroyed their team's chemistry. They did not make the playoffs, and I think that's the reason why. He just wasn't a leader at all. And they actually finished 13th in the West, which is terrible. But they had an amazing turnaround. They did some great things this offseason. I gave their draft grade an A+, because they did great. They also got the 4th pick from the Lakers in that AD trade. They actually traded back, and they still got Jackson Hayes, who had an amazing summer league. Obviously, they got Zion. And then they got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who had a great summer league as well. And all those guys will be great key pieces. And so I gave their draft grade an A+, who I don't give A+ easily, but I really think that Zion could be the next great player. Free agency, I gave them a B+. They did not get an A because they did lose Julius Randle and Anthony Davis. However, they got some great players in Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Derek Favors, who will help them a lot, and JJ Redick, who will be a great shooter. I mean, and then 2 future first-round picks. I forgot to even mention that. That's crazy. So for prediction-wise, obviously they're in the West, but I really think they can make the playoffs this year. Maybe a 6, 5 seed. If I think the highest they can get is probably a 4 seed. In a perfect world, the lowest they can get is probably a 9, and they miss out in the playoffs. That should be a very, very good team. Moving on, we got the Mavericks with Porzingis being the key player to that team this year. We don't know what Porzingis will bring. He didn't play that. I don't think he played at all last season. And coming off the injury, we'll see how he does. But this is a very tall team. They can even make a tall lineup, but they did sign some great players. So moving on, we'll go to the draft. They got a draft grade of a C. They only had one draft pick, and it was Isaiah Roby. He was a good defender. I don't really know how to grade this. I mean, it's almost not assessed, but they got his need, and it wasn't good or bad. I don't know if he'll make the team. Hopefully, free agency, I gave them a B. They bring back Porzingis, and they signed some key role players on their team. Plus, they added DeLon Wright, Seth Curry, and Boban, who will be great pieces off the bench for them. Prediction-wise, I think if Porzingis lives up to the hype, they can be a 4 or 5 seed with Don Kick leading the way. 4 seed. Easily they can miss out on the playoffs with injuries or mistakes like that. Moving on, we got the Spurs, and the key player is Keldon Johnson, their first round draft pick, who was 29th, which was crazy, but we'll get to that. The key to them, I guess, is just business as usual. They have a solid team. Popovich is always a winner. They got DeJounte Murray. He'll be back. And I gave their draft grade a B+ because I love Keldon Johnson. I mean, he had a great summer league. He could be a great player that could help them a lot and can develop into a great shooting guard. And they also drafted Lucas Simonik. And that wasn't a bad pick. That he could definitely help come off the bench behind LaMarcus Aldridge. Free agency, I gave them a B+. They were able to grab DeMar Carroll, Trey Lyles, and they re-signed Rudy Gay. But I gave them that plus because they got Tim Duncan as a assistant coach, and that's a great fit. I love that he's back and coaching. That's really cool. Prediction, I mean, is Pop ever gonna miss the playoffs? I mean, an 8 seed, 7 seed. You still got DeRozan, LaMarcus, DeJounte, Derek White. It's not a bad team, so I think an 8 seed would be key. I think they can get the 8 seed. Moving on, we run into the Houston Rockets, the other team in Texas. Now, obviously, the key player to them this year that's deciding, and I actually had a hard time, but I'm going to go with Russell Westbrook. But honestly, Capella could be even more. They need him to be a good player for them to make it far in the playoffs. He needs to be able to stop these big centers and these athletic players. He needs to meet them at the rim and have some great plays for them. But the big question obviously was Russell Westbrook the right move or not? Can they share the ball, Harden and Westbrook, and how will it work? I mean, we all saw what they did with the Thunder. Wow, what a great dynasty that could have been, but unfortunately it did not work out. And that's too bad because that was the start of that was my favorite team growing up when I was little, and I was sad that did not work. But I think that it'll be a good move for them. I just don't think they'll be able to win still. I just really don't think they have enough defense behind, like in the small forward position. I don't know how good Eric Gordon or PJ Tucker is anymore. I don't know if they can hang along. But so moving on to the draft, they didn't have any draft picks. And so, I mean, I can't really give them any grade. It's too bad. That's okay. I think they probably have the worst young guys coming up, but they have a solid team right now. And so they're playing for right now. So hopefully they get a good season. Free agency, we got a B+. They bring in Tyson Chandler, who I think can really be very good. And they re-signed Gerald Green and Daniel House. So they got some pretty good role players, but they lost some height as well. They lost Nene and Fareed. I think they weren't using Fareed well anyway, but that could have been I don't know why they didn't. Yeah, that's why they didn't get an A in my grade because they lost those two big men that could have really helped off the bench. And then they traded, obviously, for Russell Westbrook. My prediction, I think that if they play the Warriors again, if they get matched up, I think they might beat the Warriors finally. Obviously, the Warriors have changed a lot. It'll be a game to 7. I think their seed will be 4, 5, 3. If Russell and Harden really work out, it could be a 2 or a 1, maybe a long shot, in my opinion. But it's definitely up there. It could happen. Moving on to the Lakers. Obviously, their key player this year would be AD and how he can fit in with this team. The big question is was there big enough moves for them to win it all? And I gave their draft grade a B. They didn't do bad. They traded their first-round pick for Anthony Davis. And so that was a pretty good trade for them. It was actually a pretty good trade for both sides. And their only pick was Talen Horton-Tucker at 45 in the second round, which I thought was a very good pick. I like that kid. He's a good player. So that was a pretty solid pick. I think he's from Virginia Tech. I think that will work. I think he'll fit the system pretty well. Free agency, I give them a B-. They did get AD, but they lost all their young guys. They did add Quinn Cook. I think it's Jeff Green and DeMarcus Cousins, and those are some great pieces. And maybe people are going to disagree and say it's a B+, A for their free agency, but they wasted their time so long with Kawhi Leonard, and they couldn't get him, and they wasted a lot of great chances at some great players trying to go for Kawhi Leonard, and so that's why they end up getting a B- from me. And they were able to keep Kuzma in these trades. I think that will help. Prediction. At first I was like, I don't know if this team can make it that far. But are they gonna get upset? Are they not gonna make the playoffs? And there's a chance. There's always a chance. But something inside me says LeBron's gonna have one of his best years, which is surprising. But I think his assist numbers is gonna go through the roof with AD. He's finally working with an amazing big man that's in his prime. No, I mean, Shaq was great, but not in his prime. And Chris Bosh was all right, but no one as good as AD. So I think that this could really be their year. They just need to edge out these Clippers. Now moving on to these Clippers, obviously their big player will actually not be Kawhi, it'll be PG-13. How well he can how well he can work with Kawhi, how well he can just gel. I think it'll be great. But the question is, can anyone even score on them right now? How are you going to score on Beverly, Paul George, Kawhi, Zubac, and Harrell? Like that is deadly defense. And then you got Lou Will coming off the bench. Like that's amazing, and that's so scary. Moving on, I really like their draft. It's one of the most underrated drafts. I gave them actually an A- because I love when teams draft teammates. Because that is amazing. I love when teams do that. And they drafted Florida State teammates. I'm not going to try to say his first name, but his last name is pretty easy. It's Kabengele, the Canadian, and Terrence Mann. Kabengele is at 27, Terrence Mann's at 48. I was surprised that Terrence Mann was at 48, but these two guys can really come off the bench and do something special. Obviously, free agency, they got an A as well. They lost Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that trade, and also they lost a lot of first-round picks and Gallinari. But what they got for it, I think it'll work out for them. Paul George, Kawhi. Then they got another off-the-bench guy in Maurice Harkless, kept Beverly, and kept Zubac. So I think that will work. In prediction, I really think that this is the number one team in the West. Injuries would hurt, but they still have enough depth that it won't kill them as long as they're not season enders. And we always hope that that doesn't happen, but we know that it can. And just hopefully that the Clippers can stay, because I really think that they're probably going to win this year. I really do. Moving on with the Warriors, it'll easily be when does Klay Thompson get back, and can D'Lo mesh with this team? I really think that D'Lo can. I think he's perfect for that team. I loved when D'Lo was the leader, though, so we'll see what happens in Golden State. But he was so exciting to watch in Brooklyn, and so that was crazy what happened in the offseason. And I think the big question for the Warriors is the dynasty really even over? Like, I really don't. They still have some key pieces, and they got Willie Cauley-Stein, and so I gave their draft grade a B minus. They drafted Jordan Poole and Eric Pascal, and Jordan Poole off the bench will be interesting. I really like that kid. He's a great player. And Pascal, he might work his way up to the G League, but he's pretty exciting as well. I give their free agency draft an A minus, grade an A minus. They were gonna lose Kevin Durant, and to get something back for him at that point in time was crazy that they were able to do that. They actually had to give up a first round pick. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but Kevin Durant wanted something in return for D'Lo. He thought that he was good enough that he wanted something, and Kevin and the Warriors gave him that's a first round pick, and but they did get D'Lo back, and that's pretty cool. I really think that was a great deal for the Warriors because Durant was leaving anyway, so to get something back, that was great. They added Willie Cauley-Stein, they re-signed Looney and Clay, so that ended up working. They lost Iguodala, Cook, and Cousins. Losing Cook might hurt, actually. I think that he was a great guy off the bench. I don't know how, and Iguodala will be definitely the biggest loss. I don't know how big Cousins' loss will be, but they definitely feel it. Obviously, the prediction with Warriors, they're still going to remain high, but I really don't think a championships in their sights this year. Maybe when Clay comes back, they'll have something in them. Maybe they'll trade D'Lo for a small forward or something. But Clay's gonna have to guard up some really great players because D'Lo and Steph can't. But they'll still be a great team. 4 or 5, 3 seed all the way up there. They'll definitely be in the conversation in the playoffs. And obviously Steph Curry is in for a probably I am early MVP. I really think that he can do it. I mean, he's all alone now, and he's got Draymond and D'Lo, and I think those guys can get him the ball in the right places. Moving on, we have the surprising Jazz. Now, this is the sleeper team for sure, because I mean they're Utah. Normally, everyone's like, yeah, they had a great offseason, but who cares? This team could actually be a great team. I gave their draft grade a C. They had a pretty average draft. They drafted 3 guys in the second round, and they're all, like, the colleges were very small. I don't even know their names, but one was from Yale, the other one was from the College of Charleston, and the last one was from Hofstra. That's surprising. They could have got some bigger names, but they didn't, which is fine. I think bigger names doesn't always mean better. They might have found some hardworking kids off the bench, and they might work their way through the G League, but we will see. Their free agency got an A. Obviously, they got Mike Conley, which is amazing. Like, I think the player I want to see most get a ring would be Mike Conley, because he's put in so much work with the Memphis Grizzlies. He's never got a technical foul. He's a great role model, and he's just a great guy. And he's been grinding in Memphis, and I think he's got his first chance of bringing home some hardware finally. He hasn't been in the playoffs in a while, so hopefully that will be good. They added a shooter from the Pacers, Bojan Bogdanovic. They added some great guys off the bench. Ed Davis, Jeff Green, and Emmanuel Mudiay could really help their team. They got rid of Rubio, who was I don't know really. I think that was a good move getting rid of Rubio, but they did lose Derek Favors, who I think was a great player, and they will definitely feel that. I think Ed Davis will try to step in, but Derek Favors was a pretty big shoes to fill. My prediction, I think that at the top, like they're in their best season, they'll get, if they had their best season, they would get a 2 seed at top and about a 5 seed. Inside there, I think that's a perfect spot, maybe a 6 seed. But this is a really good team. It's my sleeper team. Donovan Mitchell's still there. Rudy Gobert's still there. They've really progressed, and Donovan Mitchell looks amazing on the USA team, just like Fox, and that could really help them out. Next team, Trailblazers. I think the key player It's not CJ. It's not Dame. It's Hassan Whiteside. See if Hassan Whiteside can produce in a different place. Because I don't know how well. I mean, I think he can. He was on limited minutes in Miami for some reason. I think you really give him the chance to do something, and I think he'll work. This is easily my dark horse of the Western Conference. The second player I most want to see win a ring besides Mike Conley is Damian Lillard, because that guy's a stud. They had an impressive draft. They had a B. I gave them a B plus. They had one pick, and it was in the first round, 25. They just kept on, and it was Nasir Little, and that is a great player. That fits their team very well. I think he'll come off the bench, catch some lobs from Dame, and could definitely do some dirty stuff up there in Portland. Free agency, give him a B plus. They traded for Hassan Whiteside and Kent Bazemore, so those are some good guys that they could use, but they did lose some bench players in Seth Curry, Enes Kanter, Aminu Alfred, I don't know how to say his name, Aminu, and Myers Leonard. That actually could hurt more. There's some, Enes Kanter especially, he did fill in when Nurkic got hurt, and I think Hassan Whiteside is Nurkic's replacement until he comes back, and those two together will be dirty in my opinion, but we'll see. I think prediction-wise, they'll start off the season a little bit slower, but as soon as Nurkic comes back, they'll end up being where they usually are. A lot of teams in this Western Conference are in that 5, 6, 4 range, and so someone's going to get pushed back, and I really don't think it's going to be a Trailblazers. I think they'll be able to get ahead and be a great team this year. As we're getting closer to the end, 2 more teams left. We finish off with the Thunder and the T-Wolves. So starting with the Thunder, that is an interesting situation. The player I want to see step up right now is Steven Adams. It's his team now. I want to see how he does without Russell. I want to see if Russell created him. But I think he's a great player. He set some nasty screens, and he's a great defender. But this is a rebuild, and it looks like a pretty good rebuild. They got so many first-round picks, but they only had one this year. And so, because all the drama happened after the draft. So I gave them a B- because they drafted Darius Bazley with 21st pick. Now this kid, I don't know much about him, but I think he went to Vanderbilt. Let's see. He went to, not sure. Maybe he skipped through. Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure he skipped through high school or college, and I think he just did. I'm not really sure what he did, but I know a little bit about him, and I think he'll be a great player that could help that team a lot with their rebuild, and we'll see how it goes. Let's see here. Free agency was an A, because what could they do? I mean, Paul George wanted out, and to get what they got for him was crazy. Like there's so many draft picks. Shea Gilgeous and Gallinari. Those two players will be a key factor if they keep developing. They'll be a key factor in the rebuild. It's not a bad team. They don't have then they end up losing Russell Westbrook, so they went full rebuild. But they got some more first-round picks. Going back to Houston, just a side note that once these guys retire, they have no future. I don't see any future with them. They have no young guys, no draft picks anymore. But I mean, that's what teams are doing. They're trying to win right now. So back to the Thunder. They got Chris Paul and a ton of future round draft picks. I think Chris Paul will be good there. I mean, I don't really know how good he is anymore. I think he'll be just fine. Prediction-wise, I really don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they won't be as bad as people think. They'll surprise a few people, and I think they'll be back in the playoffs and back with a great team in no time, but they have no ties to the Supersonics anymore, which is very sad. I think someone should go and play in Seattle because that is a great city. Finally, with the T-Wolves, I think that if a lot of things go their way, they could have a really good comeback season. Their most key player would definitely be Andrew Wiggins, and he would be a huge factor. So for the draft, I gave them an A because they drafted a Big 12 Player of the Year and the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Jarrett Culver at 6, and Jalen Noel, who went to Washington at 43. I don't know. People have been saying they didn't have a good draft, but I don't know what there's. I mean, Jarrett Culver will fit perfectly. He'll be a mini Jimmy Butler, and Jalen Noel. I think he'll make the team. I think he'll be a good backup behind Teague, and I think he may take Teague's spot. This kid is very athletic. He's a Pac-12 Player of the Year with so many good players in the Pac-12 last year, like Louis King, Bull, who got hurt, but some great players. He was a Pac-12 Player of the Year, so I think that deserves some respect. And they drafted really well. Free agency, they got a B+. They did lose D Rose, Taj Gibson, and Tyus Jones, and I think Jalen Noel will take Tyus Jones' role. Tyus Jones did set a record though. I think it's the best assist to turnover ratio ever in a season, and that's impressive. Go Duke, obviously. His brother's even better than him, in my opinion. Not right now, but he will be. And so that just some really cool stuff going down in the Jones family, and I think that he'll be a great fit wherever he goes. I did think he went to Memphis, and who the T-Wolves brought in was Napier, Jordan Bell, Noah Vonleh, and my sleeper who didn't get drafted, Naz Reid. I think Naz will make the roster, and that's a really athletic front court with Jordan Bell, Noah Vonleh, and Naz Reid. That's pretty dirty. And Shabazz Napier, obviously a great college player who hasn't really got his time yet. I think that the T-Wolves will help him. I think he'll get some minutes behind Teague, next to Teague, and stuff like that. But prediction-wise, I think they're 7. I think if they have a great season, they're a 6 seed at most. But it depends on what Andrew Wiggins does. We'll have to see if Andrew Wiggins is a top-tier player anymore. This is his year to prove what he's got. And if he can't prove it, then I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be very tough for them to win. They still got Karl Anthony Towns, but we'll see if they can. We'll see if they can pull it around. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, then you obviously liked what you heard. So like that video, and if you want to see Eastern Conference, which is very interesting, then please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and bring back NCAA 14. Thank you.